Have you ever experienced a moment when a simple gesture completely changed the course of your life? On that cold Halloween night, amid laughter and costumes on the streets of New York, two siblings went door to door asking for candy. But behind their shy smiles, there was something few noticed, a sad look hiding the harsh reality they faced at home. When a kind family opened their door, they had no idea that this encounter would change the destiny of everyone involved. What started as a $500 act of help would, years later, turn into an unforgettable and moving twist. Sometimes, the real treasure isn't in what we give, but in what we inspire in someone's heart. Before I tell you what happened, like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell, because this story will truly move you. But after all, who were those children? And what would they do years later that would leave everyone speechless?
It was a cold October night in New York. The streets were lit by carved pumpkins and orange lights flickering in windows, announcing that Halloween had arrived. Amid the distant hum of traffic and the laughter of other children, two siblings walked side by side, Lucas, 9, and Sophia, 7. They wore simple but carefully chosen costumes, and each step carried a mix of excitement and worry that only a child's eyes could reveal. Around them, other children ran from door to door, filling their bags with candy. But Lucas and Sophia wore timid smiles, and it wasn't hard to notice that, despite the Halloween excitement, there was something different in their eyes, a reflection of concern, a weight of responsibility that should not fall so early on such young shoulders. They weren't just asking for candy. They were trying to maintain some sense of normalcy in a home where making ends meet had become a daily struggle. Their father, a public school teacher, had recently lost his job. To pay the bills, he took on extra, physically demanding work that left him exhausted at the end of the day. Their mother, a dedicated nurse, worked long day and night shifts, caring for patients while trying to keep the family finances in order. Despite all this, they never let Lucas and Sophia feel the full weight of their struggles, at least not completely. Yet the children noticed, and it was visible, even to someone who only met them that Halloween night. As they walked through the neighborhood, Lucas held his sister's hand tightly. Each door that opened brought a mixture of hope and nervousness. They knew they had to be polite, smile, and thank the neighbors for the candy, but they also felt ashamed to be there asking for help. It was a silent struggle to maintain the joy of ordinary children while carrying the awareness that their family needed support. Then they arrived at a house unlike the others. The facade was modest but welcoming, and the living room light illuminated the faces of those answering the door. A couple looked at Lucas and Sophia and, instead of just offering candy, paused as if trying to see beyond the costumes and treat bags. "Are you okay?" the woman asked, genuinely concerned. For a moment, Lucas and Sophia hesitated, but that gesture of empathy was enough for them to feel safe enough to reveal the truth. Yes, they were there asking for candy, but what they really needed was help to get through a difficult time at home. The man and woman exchanged surprised glances. Then, without hesitation, they offered not just candy, but $500. A simple gesture from people facing their own challenges, yet choosing to help. That brief, silent moment would mark the children's lives forever. Lucas and Sophia left that house with sparkling eyes, not only because of the money received, but because they had recognized that kindness exists, even when least expected. They didn't know it yet, but that Halloween night would become the first piece of a story that would change their lives forever. That Halloween, Lucas and Sophia returned home with heavier bags of candy than usual, but it was the envelope with the $500 that weighed most on their hearts, not for its monetary value, but for the unexpected act of kindness from people they barely knew. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they felt a wave of hope, something that had seemed so distant until then. In the following days, the family returned to their exhausting routine. Their father, still determined, moved from one temporary job to another, carrying boxes, helping move furniture, always with a tired smile. Their mother, between nursing shifts, tried to keep the house organized and the bills paid on time. But there was now a silent difference. The gesture from that family had given Lucas and Sophia a sense of dignity, a reminder that even in hard times, there are people willing to help without expecting anything in return. The money didn't solve all the family's problems, but it allowed small reliefs: a utility bill paid on time, ingredients for a more nutritious meal, and above all, the chance to breathe without desperation for a few days. More importantly, it taught a lesson that would remain in the children's hearts. Kindness creates impact, even when it seems small. Watching their parents smile, Lucas began to understand something that had once been too big for his young mind. He saw the relief in his mother's eyes, the silent gratitude of his father, and realized that acts of generosity have power, the power to change days, lift spirits, and spark hope. Sophia, for her part, would hug her brother at night, whispering simple words. One day, we'll give back. One day, we'll make a difference for someone too. The family who helped them had no idea that their simple act would become a turning point. They had faced their own financial challenges, yet chose to help, and it was precisely that choice that planted the seed for an extraordinary future. It was a silent reminder that kindness does not depend on abundance, but on courage and empathy. Weeks passed, and the memory of that Halloween night remained vivid. Lucas and Sophia continued with their routine, but now with something different: the certainty that life can change with small gestures, and that true generosity always finds a way to flourish. They didn't yet know how, but they already carried within them the promise that they would give back, that one day, in some way, they would make good return, multiplied. And so, in that simple scene of streets lit by pumpkins and children's smiles, the first lesson that would shape Lucas and Sophia's entire journey was born. Kindness, even small, is the beginning of great miracles. Despite the kindness they had received, Lucas and Sophia's lives continued to be full of challenges. At school, they tried to follow a normal routine, but not everyone around them understood the struggles they silently carried. Some classmates looked oddly at their simple clothes or their less full Halloween bags, and cruel comments surfaced amid stifled laughter. "Look, the poor kids got money, but they're still asking for candy like normal children," said one boy mockingly, while others laughed. Sophia, her eyes welling up, squeezed her brother's hand. Lucas, trying to smile, felt a pang of injustice. How could anyone judge someone without knowing the story behind every gesture, every hardship? Even adults at unexpected moments showed disdain without realizing it. At the supermarket, while buying basic ingredients for dinner, An employee muttered in a low but audible voice, "They shouldn't even be here, spending money that isn't theirs." Each word felt like a stone on the children's hearts. But Lucas and Sophia had something that set them apart: resilience and the ability to see beyond other people's ignorance. They had learned early on that the kindness they received should not breed arrogance, and that others' scorn could not extinguish the light they felt inside. Rather than closing themselves off, they chose to internalize a silent lesson. The world does not always recognize goodness, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. As they walked home that night, Lucas looked at the envelope with the $500 carefully tucked away. It was more than just money. It was a symbol of trust and generosity, a reminder that even amid criticism and dismissive looks, kindness always finds those who value it. Sophia, resting her head on her brother's shoulder, whispered, "One day we'll show that this makes a difference. One day we'll truly give back." And so, despite judgment and misunderstanding, their story continued to unfold. Every cruel word, every glance of disdain only reinforced what was already being built, a character shaped by empathy, gratitude, and the determination that true kindness always returns, even in unexpected ways. At that moment, no one could have imagined that a simple act of helping two children on a cold Halloween night would grow into something much greater years later. Neither Lucas nor Sophia, nor the family that helped them, knew that life had prepared a twist that would forever change the fate of everyone involved. The scorn and injustice only strengthened the children's determination, planting the seeds of a silent promise: true kindness, even when ignored by some, is never lost. It waits for the right moment to flourish.
Months passed, and despite the help they had received that Halloween night, the family's life remained a constant challenge. The father, tired and overworked, still rushed from one temporary job to another, carrying heavy boxes and enduring grueling shifts to ensure the family had even the smallest sense of security. The mother, exhausted from endless hospital shifts, came home with sleep marks under her eyes and sore hands, yet never failed to smile at Lucas and Sophia, trying to preserve their childhood. For the children, each day was a silent battle. Lunch was sometimes just bread and butter. Dinner was simple meals that didn't completely fill their hunger, but filled their hearts with love. Still, their parents' worry overflowed and reflected in Lucas and Sophia's watchful eyes. They knew that any extra expense could jeopardize the little they had. Even small pleasures had become luxuries. One afternoon, the school announced the annual field trip that all the students eagerly anticipated. For Lucas and Sophia, it was a distant dream. Even the modest participation fee was something their parents could not afford. The news felt like a heavy weight. Seeing their classmates plan and get excited while they felt excluded stirred a mix of sadness and frustration. "Why does it always feel like the world forgets us?" Sophia murmured, tears in her eyes. Lucas squeezed his sister's hand and just smiled, trying to hide his own pain. Around the same time, an important bill arrived overdue, threatening to cut off essential services. The tension at home was palpable. The feeling of helplessness filled the air, and for the first time, Lucas and Sophia realized they couldn't control everything, not even with all the goodwill and care in the world. It was in this setting of adversity that the children understood the true weight of adult life. The envelope with the $500 they had received months earlier now seemed like a distant memory, a kind gesture that, as helpful as it had been, could not solve every problem. Yet the memory of that act continued to warm their hearts, reminding them that even in the darkest moments, there are people willing to help. As night fell and the family sat down to their simple dinner, Lucas looked around and realized something fundamental. Despite the hardship, the exhaustion, and the silent tears, there was love. And it was precisely that love, combined with the kindness they had received, that planted the seed of hope in their hearts. A hope that one day they could give back everything they had been given and transform someone else's life, just as someone had transformed theirs. In that moment, amidst sadness and fatigue, Lucas and Sophia learned the hardest lesson yet. Life can be harsh, but it is in adversity that true strength, courage, and kindness are revealed.
Years have passed since that unforgettable Halloween. Lucas and Sophia grew up, carrying with them not only the memories of their difficult childhood, but also the silent promise that one day they would repay the kindness they received. The boy, now 23, had become involved in the family business and developed a natural talent for investing. Sophia, 21, combined creativity and determination, helping her family prosper and turning challenges into opportunities. What they didn't expect was that life would give them a chance to fulfill that promise much sooner than they imagined. On a sunny morning, while reviewing documents for their company, Lucas had a vivid memory of that Halloween, the gesture of a family they didn't know, who, despite facing their own difficulties, offered help. He looked at Sophia, and without a word, they both knew it was time to honor the promise they had made to themselves. The trip to that family's house was filled with memories and anticipation. Every street, every corner brought flashes of timid laughter, candy bags, and the worried eyes of children trying to appear happy. When they finally arrived, they rang the doorbell with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. The door opened slowly, and the family who had helped them years before looked at the visitors with curiosity. There was no immediate recognition. After all, time had changed faces, grown figures, and softened memories. But Lucas and Sophia didn't need immediate recognition. They only needed to tell their story. A few years ago, you helped us in a moment when we needed it most, and we never forgot it, Lucas began, his voice firm but filled with emotion. Sophia added, "You did something that changed our lives, even without knowing it. Today, we want to give back and thank you from the bottom of our hearts." The impact was immediate, surprise and disbelief mixed with awe and joy. Tears streamed down the mother's face, her hands trembling as she held what they now offered, a check for $1 million, enough to transform the life of the family who, years before, had shown that true kindness has no price. In an instant, past and present met. The same kindness that once helped 2 children keep hope alive now returned on an unimaginable scale. The family, overwhelmed with gratitude, realized that the world can indeed repay acts of generosity, but not always in the way we expect, and often at the moment we need it most. That day, Lucas and Sophia realized something even deeper. The true reward of kindness is not only in what is received, but in the transformation it brings to the hearts of everyone involved. A simple act of empathy and love had set in motion a chain of hope and gratitude that spanned years, overcame hardships, and became a story that would never be forgotten. And so, the promise made in childhood was fulfilled, proving that genuine kindness always finds its way, even through the most unexpected paths. The day Lucas and Sophia returned to that house became an unforgettable milestone. The family who had helped them years ago was still facing financial difficulties, but now, confronted with the young adult's unexpected gesture, they felt a wave of relief and gratitude that seemed to fill every corner of the home. The father, eyes brimming with tears,
held the $1 million check as if it were a priceless relic, feeling the magnitude of what the gesture represented. The mother, hugging Sophia, repeated words of thanks that barely emerged through her sobs of emotion. They were not just receiving money. They were receiving the acknowledgement that true kindness, even in its smallest forms, is never lost. Lucas and Sophia sat at the table with the family, recalling the night it all began. Halloween, the envelope with $500, and the concern reflected in the children's eyes. Now, years later, life had come full circle. The generosity of that humble, courageous family had returned multiplied, showing that sincere acts never go unnoticed. But it wasn't just about money. The greatest reward lay in the connection, the shared emotion, the sense of emotional justice. Seeing the house, once on the verge of being lost, now secure and restored, was a reminder that goodness always finds its way. The gratitude in the eyes of everyone in the room was more valuable than any material wealth. As they talked, the family shared their recent struggles: overdue bills, unstable work, sleepless nights of worry. Lucas and Sophia listened attentively, knowing that their grand gesture was only the beginning of something even greater: the opportunity to transform lives, inspire hope, and show that genuine kindness is powerful. By the end of the meeting, everyone realized that this story was not just about money. It was about empathy, courage, and generosity. The family who had helped, even in difficult times, had planted a seed of love and compassion. And Lucas and Sophia, now adults, were reaping the fruits of that seed, not only by rewarding the family, but also by reaffirming the importance of doing good, even when no one is watching. That moment was etched into everyone's memory as a testament that life rewards acts of kindness in ways we could never predict. What began as a simple $500 act on a cold Halloween night had become an eternal lesson. True generosity creates chains of hope and transformation that transcend time. Sometimes, life places us in moments that seem small but carry immense power. The story of Lucas and Sophia, who started by trick-or-treating on a cold Halloween night, and the family who helped them with just $500, shows us that every act of kindness, no matter how small it seems, can transform lives in unimaginable ways. When they returned years later to give back, they were not just offering money. They were returning hope, trust, and love. The reward of kindness is not measured only in figures, but in its power to touch hearts and change destinies. The lives of these young people and the family who helped them proved that true wealth lies not only in what we possess, but in what we choose to share with others. This story also teaches something essential: acting with empathy and generosity, even in the face of your own struggles, creates a multiplying effect of love and transformation. The family who gave when they had little, and the siblings who remembered the gesture years later, showed that goodness is never in vain. Every choice, every small act of kindness has the power to resonate across time and touch the hearts of others. And in the end, it is human connection that matters most. Seeing tears of gratitude, heartfelt hugs, and emotional smiles reminds us that life rewards those who act with an open heart, even when the world seems unfair. Therefore, the lesson is clear: doing good is never a waste of time. True kindness always returns, often when least expected, transforming not only the life of those who receive, but also the life of those who give. Lucas and Sophia learned, even as children, that hope and generosity are powerful seeds. And now, as adults, they showed that it is possible to turn a simple gesture into a chain of love that spans years, hardships, and even generations. May this story inspire us to look around, see beyond appearances, and always choose to do good, even when no one is watching. Because kindness is the most valuable gift we can offer, and the reward, sooner or later, always comes. And you, have you ever thought that a simple gesture, like helping someone in a difficult moment, can change the course of an entire life? Write here in the comments, which act of kindness in this story touched you the most? I'd love to reply to you. If this story touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Because the next life lesson story, even more emotional, is already appearing on your screen. Click to watch.